Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with episode 72 of our Reddit series. This one's going to be some more entitled parents, and I know you're going to love this one. So I thought I'd try something different for this episode. We've got a mix of stories with lots of upvotes, and a mix of stories that have less than kind of 100 or 200. This was a suggestion I got, so I hope it brings fresher content to the channel. So sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. So, my back garden has a large fence with a hedge along it. This is mirrored with a house on the opposite side. The neighbours who live on the other side of the hedge are alright, but weird and quirky, but for the most part, they're fine. They have two young girls, I'd say 3 and 4 years old. Very friendly, always shouting through the fence making conversation, they're really great. Also in the story is my fluffball, who's now a big fluffball German Shepherd. She's good with kids, but quite defensive of her area, so you can kinda see where this story is going. Now, the fluffball likes to bark at these girls through the fence. It's dense and about 15 feet high, so she's purely barking at them while playing. When this happens, I go out and call after her as she is fairly loud. This brings me to yesterday. It was nice out, so I had the back door open. The fluffball was running inside and out, playing with her toys. I hear the barking start again as per usual when the girls are outside playing. I go out, walk her back inside, speak to the kids as normal, and go back to my movie. A few minutes go by and the barking starts again. I finish the scene I was watching and mooch outside to collect her again. This time her head is kinda in the hedge. There is small gaps in the fence, so I suppose she's getting a better look. I go out and pull Fluffball out of the hedge, and these two girls are sitting in the hedge, on our side of the fence, and God knows how they got over it. They are in there, poking Fluffball with a stick in the face. Of course, the dog is going completely mental and in kill mode. Small snack-sized children, strangers in her properties, being poked in her face is a bad recipe. I actually felt sick. If the Fluffball could have gotten into that hedge, she could have mauled them. I take the dog back inside and close the door so she can't go out. I help the two girls out of the hedge and ask what the hell they're doing. They say they wanted to play with the doggy and I let them off as they're only two young kids. They probably have no idea what potential dangers they could have been in. In comes the entitled mum and the entitled dad. The top parents who threw out all of this were sitting in their garden having a smoke. I call to them and they come over to the edge of the fence that has no hedge by it. The first thing they blurt out is, "What the F are you doing with my kids? You're abducting them." Okay then. I explained the situation. The parents blamed me for allowing them to climb the fence. Interesting point of view, right? I go on with how my dog could have seriously injured them and that they need to keep a better eye on their kids. Obviously, me questioning their perfect parenting was crossing the line. I passed the girls back over the fence to the entitled dad who is staring at me with a devil's eyes and nothing more was said. So today, I get a knock on the door. The animal control officer and a police officer are at the door. They claim I've been reported for owning a dangerous dog and that it's bitten the young neighbor. Slightly confused, I invite them in and the fluffball charges past me and jumps up at them trying to lick their faces. She likes people once she sees them. I explain my side of the story and tell them one of the girls have a cut on her arm, which is strange because I was the one who took them out of the hedge and checked them over. There was no cut. After talking again for a while longer, they leave and will get back to me after they've spoken to the family, which hasn't happened yet. If you want an update, let me know and I'll post one once I hear anything. The best part about this one is we already have an update, so let's get right into that. So I've now heard back on the report from the family. The younger girl has a few welts on her arm, likely from the sharp branches in the bush. Officer's words, not mine, no obvious bite marks, and the child didn't even say she's been bitten. They were out playing again this evening, the fluffball still barking at the hedge, so everything seems back to normal. The 2-year-old called through the fence if she can come play with the puppy on another day because she is grounded. Little bit harsh grounding a 2-year-old, but parents will be parents. Thank you for all the kind words on Fluffball. She's eaten one of my trainers this evening to celebrate. Does this not sound like weirdly illegal or some kind of harassment or something like that? Like making false reports? Is that not against the law? I don't know. If I was OP, I'd be filing some kind of charges against this person because trying to get their animal taken away from them is just a horrible thing to do, and if they have broken a law, they deserve to be punished. Not to mention, who's to say they couldn't throw some poison or something over the back fence just to get back at her? This is a horrible situation and there really needs to be some justice done. At least so far, the kids don't seem half bad. Hopefully their parents decide to change their ways and the kids don't grow up to be entitled parents as well, but given the track record of entitled parents, I don't see that as likely. So, a little backstory. I've been struggling with depression, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, and PTSD for years. I used to live in a very toxic home with a very entitled, abusive, and controlling mother. I was extremely depressed and I hated life. I'd finally had enough and so I tried to kill myself. It did not work, obviously, but I nearly died and was rushed to hospital. When we got there, my mum was extremely worried about me, as any mother would be, or at least I thought so. But once I was admitted into the psych ward, that's when her entitlement came out. When I was there, I was allowed an hour of visiting time every other day. My mum used this time to tell me how my suicide attempt made her look bad and what will my coworkers say when they find out my daughter tried to kill herself. And you doing this has made me look like a bad mother, and other things like that. My entire hospital stay, my mother kept telling me that if I said anything bad about her, in other words, tell the truth, I could get her fired and ruin her career more than I already had. So being a scared 15-year-old, I lied and protected her when I was supposed to be healing. After I left the ward, I was put into therapy and my mother talked to my therapist and said that her main concern were the lies I had said about her. Not the fact that her kid had tried to kill herself. No. She was more concerned about me telling people about the abuse and making her look bad other than her own kid. She was more concerned about me telling people about the abuse and making her look bad than her own kid trying to end her life. Also, she insisted on being there in the therapy sessions with me and would often hijack the sessions and try and use them for herself, or at least try to. I had an amazing therapist that would not take her BS, and they fought a fair few times. Not the classic entitlement story, but the fact that she thought her reputation was more important than my life and my mental health has really pissed me off even to this day. This was 4 years ago and I'm in a much better place now. I've moved out the next year and I'm now thriving. We are still in contact and things are getting a lot better now. I've set boundaries with her and she has respected them. Her life hasn't been the greatest and me moving out kinda was a brutal wake-up call for her. At first she fought and tried to manipulate me and others to get me to come home, but slowly she let go and stopped. Now we see each other on my terms. This story really pulled a heartstring for me. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have parents that have always supported me with whatever I've done. If I've ever gone through troubles, they've always been there to talk to. So I'm lucky enough to be able to say that I haven't had to go through troubles like this in the past, but I really do feel for this person and everything she's had to go through. Quite frankly, if I was going through this situation and I had a mother that treated me like that, I probably would have cut her out completely. It doesn't really seem like she's bringing anything positive to her life, and if anything, seems like she's probably trying to drag her down. At least she's managed to find a middle ground and sees the mum on her own terms now, so at least things are a little bit better. So my girlfriend and I try to do dinner dates at least once a week. We're busy a lot, so it's nice to take some time to just enjoy each other's company. We went to one of our favorite noodle spots and had just ordered when a family came and sat next to us. There were 2 kids, their parents, and one who I assumed was their grandma. The younger woman had called her mum. Now, for context, my girlfriend is trans and is currently on HRT, but she doesn't yet pass, which is a term that I don't really like, and is still often mistaken for a man. We were holding hands, grinning, and just being generally adorable. In comes EG, who had been watching us since she sat down. "Oh, I just love seeing young couples," she said, first to her daughter and then again to us. Asked us how long we've been together, and this is a question we get quite a bit. So I answered and said it would be our 3 years in June. And she says, "Oh my, 3 years? That's a long time. Surprised not to see a ring on that finger. You should while you can, young man." My girlfriend didn't correct her because safety, you just never know how people will respond, and given her recent experience, which I posted about, she's pretty wary. I didn't say anything because that's her decision to make, not mine. She did say that she was planning to, but not until after we graduate and have stable jobs and salaries. She then says, "Oh, you two are students? Well, you should still get on it. Can't wait too long or you won't be having any babies." I instantly cringe because children are not something that I've ever wanted, and my girlfriend feels the exact same way. My girlfriend deflected and said she would focus on us getting through school and finding a place to live before anything else. Thankfully our food arrived and we started eating, but the entitled grandma wasn't done with us yet. "My daughter had her first son after only 2 years with her husband," she said to us. Her daughter looked mortified and whispered for her mum to cut it out. The entitled grandma ignored her and said, "It's always better to start sooner. The more you can make, the better." At this point, I was just about done, and I told the entitled grandma as kindly as I could that kids weren't in the cards for us, and that we were just trying to enjoy our date night. My girlfriend was inhaling her noodles as fast as she could, giving me the "eat them and let's go" look. The entitled grandma, however, was aghast. "What do you mean you don't want to have babies?" she asked, much louder than I was comfortable with. "Just look at how sweet my little ones are here. You have to give your future husband some babies." At this point, my girlfriend chimed in that she didn't want any either, and could the entitled grandma please leave us alone. We aren't really comfortable discussing our reproductive plans or lack thereof with a stranger. The entitled grandma's daughter was trying to keep her calm and silence her mum, while her husband just sat there, head in his hands, and clearly this was not their first circus. She continued, "What would your parents say? Surely it would be wrong of you to deny them their grandbabies." I had had it at this point, but managed to keep it until the entitled grandmother turned to her daughter, who was by now telling her to shut up, and said, What, dear? I just think it's selfish. I snapped that the only selfish thing was that I was being expected to provide my parents with a grandchild by a stranger who didn't know me but saw it fit to insert herself into my personal life and into my date night. My girlfriend had inhaled the rest of her noodles in record time. I was only about halfway through mine, but I didn't care. We flagged down a waitress, got the check, and slapped down some cash plus some extra for the tip, and I felt really bad about leaving half my food there unfinished. And then we got up to leave. The entitled grandma was still grumbling about how I was denying my husband and parents and his parents too. And before we left, my girlfriend leaned in and said, "By the way, I'm not her husband, I'm her wife," before whisking me out the door. Cue a lovely glimpse of her very sour face from the entitled grandma as we left. My girlfriend stopped by the pizza place and brought me a slice because I didn't finish my dinner, and we wanted to talk about what had just happened. She was pissed and upset about being called a guy, hence why she threw that little bit in at the end, and I was just shaken up because I hate when strangers accost me about my family plans. This is not the first time this has happened to me. It's a sensitive subject for me, namely because of the reasons why I don't want kids. Luckily, my girlfriend and I went home and had a movie night, so all wasn't lost. So far, this episode is just out of control with entitled parents who think they can get away with whatever they want. We've got parents who think they can tell other people what to do with their lives. We've got parents who think that they can try and get people's dogs taken away. We've just got some of the worst people I've seen on this episode. Let me see if I can find one worse for the last story, but I'm hoping that I can't. So this one has lesser upvotes, but it's still a really good story, and it's from that same person who had the entitled mum try and convince the class that they needed to be in special ed because they had autism, if anyone remembers. So let's get right into the story. So a bit of background information, my dad and mum have been divorced since I was 4. And as I've made clear, he wasn't always the best father growing up. For one, he treated Asperger's as an illness that he could cure. Instead, he was pushy as hell. He remarried when I was about 10, and this woman and I never got along. She was as stubborn as my dad and as pushy and disrespectful about my issues too. She also had a 2-year-old daughter that she treated as perfect, while I was damaged and weird. Her words actually, not mine. Well, she had a lot of animals, including horses, and she pressed my dad into moving to a farm with me in tow. I'm a city boy at heart, and the sounds of the countryside makes me paranoid. For a long time, I made the best of a bad situation. I even called a suicide hotline at 13 once. Yeah, this was around the time of the former entitled mum too. My dad actually does well on a farm, and the countryside really suits him. So for him, it ended up being a good thing, but with me being split between 2 parents, with one of them not being very good with teens nor autistics, married to a woman just as bad as him, and me not doing well in a countryside environment and progressively getting worse, I was just in a horrible situation. My dad usually took my stepmom's side in situations where she had to deal with me, such as when she threw a Lego figurine out of a car window because I didn't want my stepsister to play with it in a moving car, and she kept screaming about seeing it. I was apparently the bad guy in that situation at 11. This time, we were doing the weekend routine of feeding the animals, checking to see if their hay needed changing, putting out the chickens, etc. I'm getting water for the pigs and my stepsister is helping, but I see she's dousing the pigs in water and they're squealing. I tell her that that might not be a good idea. She says it's fine and I move on. She heads back in and I finish up outside. Not 5 minutes later, my stepmother comes out screaming at me, gathering a bucket of cold water and dousing me in it, yelling, "How the F do you like that?" and is basically chewing me out for pouring water on the pigs. My stepsister had played it off as like giving the pigs a bath and said that I said it was okay. Had I actually done that, chewing me out, understandable. Dousing me in cold water in mid-September, not okay. My dad comes out and calms her down. I'm in tears and trying to tell the story, but my stepmom is shouting me down, and this is one of the few times that my dad didn't stand by her. Even after she heard the story from me, and it was confirmed by her daughter who didn't think she'd done anything bad. After confirming I had pneumonia, she never apologized and still hasn't to this day, and vehemently held on that I was still somehow in the wrong because I let it happen. This was one of the events that led to me calling the suicide hotline and for my dad to realize that I didn't want to live with him, which ended up with him actually giving up his shared custody for a while. The way that happened was through putting me in mental torment, and him not realizing until my mum pointed it out to him had me calling the helpline in tears. Damn digressing. Short story became long. Either way, I got out from under her grasp and my dad's during the most vulnerable time in my life to live with my mum and my stepfather, who was similar to my dad but in general was a better version of him. I mean, this seems completely normal, right? Just give a kid pneumonia because you feel like it? I mean, that's normal behavior, I guess. On a more serious note, I think this is the 3rd or 4th story I've read from this person, so I actually kind of feel for you on quite a deep level and I'm quite invested in what's been going on with all of this. I don't know if you'll watch this, but if you do, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I hope things are getting better now. I hope that you don't have to deal with parents who treat you like this anymore, and I hope you don't have to deal with people like you did in the previous stories. I've grown up around people with mental illnesses, and being discriminated or judged based on that is just disgusting, and honestly, I just wish you all the best. Also, I'm adding this in later, but if you or anybody else ever needs to chat about anything about how you're feeling or whatever it may be, you all know where to find me, and I'm sure there's so many people in my Discord server or even in the comments that would be willing to chat as well. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm just going to take a second to plug a couple of my social medias, including our Discord server. I do have a Twitter and an Instagram if you want to follow me on both of those. They are both at Bumfris, and feel free to send me a message and I'll do my best to respond. I also just want to take a second to say thank you so much for all the love lately, all of the comments, the likes, the subscribers, just the fact that you guys tune in and watch my videos every day. It really does make my day. Every single one of you is the backbone of this channel, and I really cannot express how much I appreciate that. Without you guys, this channel would be nothing, and I love making these videos for you guys, and I love the fact that you enjoy them. So on that note, I will wrap things up for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to take a second again to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Entitled Parents. Bye.